Hello, everyone. It is August 25th. So in your Edmodo, you are going to scroll until you see the post that says 825 chemical symbols and formulas. We have the link for the reading. We have the practice questions. Make sure you email those to me. My email is right here. So I'm going to open this link for the reading. We are going to be learning about chemical symbols and formulas. So, unless you've taken chemistry, a lot of chemical symbols and formulas don't really mean a whole lot to you. So, in order to illustrate chemical reactions and elements and compounds, in these reactions, chemists are going to use symbols and formulas. So this is kind of a shorthand used by chemists to know what's going on in a chemical reaction. So a chemical symbol is going to be a 1 or 2 letter designation for an element. So we know that O is oxygen, Zn for zinc, Fe for iron. We also know H for hydrogen, C for carbon, N for nitrogen. So the first letter in a symbol is always going to be capitalized. If the symbol contains 2 letters, the second letter is going to be lowercase. So the majority of elements are going to have symbols that are based on their English names, and these are a little more intuitive. But some of the elements are going to have abbreviations that they're going to have symbols that do not make sense to us because they are based on their Latin names. So these are some that are based on the Latin names. So sodium for natrium, the Latin name. But as you can see, it's not intuitive to our English language. So that is why you need to really look at the periodic table of elements when you are trying to pick out an element symbol. All right. And then chemical formulas. So these are when we have compounds of 2 or more elements. So when we combine 2 or more elements, we use a chemical formula to tell the relative proportions of the elements. So a very familiar compound is water. So water is composed of the elements hydrogen and oxygen in a 2-to-1 ratio. So that is why it is H2O. So we could have 14 hydrogens and 7 oxygens. We could have 20 hydrogens and 10 oxygens. But it's kind of like lowest common denominator, where you get it to the lowest possible ratio, always 2-to-1. The chemical formula for sulfuric acid, H2SO4, that is just the lowest ratio. You could multiply these subscripts by a certain number and get different total numbers of each element. So here are a couple things to know that I don't think it necessarily says in the reading. So these small numbers down here, those indicate how many atoms of this element there are. So in sulfuric acid, we have 4 oxygen atoms, 2 hydrogen atoms, and 1 sulfur atom. If you don't see a subscript, which is what these little numbers are called, they're called subscripts. So they're below, kind of like a submarine, so subscript. If you do not see a subscript, that means that you only have one of that atom. All right? So make sure you complete your questions and turn them into me.